You need to be really cautious when you are applying for a job at consulting companies like HCL, Tech Mahindra, Persistent Systems, or TCS. Why did I say you have to be really cautious? Because you get only one attempt to apply for a single position, right? So why not make it right? And the thing is, the hiring process and resume filtering process of consulting companies are very different from the company which work directly, direct client companies, because the requirements of these consulting companies are really different. I will give you some example of the job description of these companies so that you can have a look for yourself as well. So what I mean is, when you are going through their job description before applying for the position, make sure that you have updated your resume accordingly to the job description, because a lot of the words in the job description which is released by implementation partners are very double meaning. They can use the word like they have to collaborate with product owner or architect, then they might require you to have some architecture experience. So that's what I meant. I will show you some example and then you can take a look for yourself. So this is a role for Intune Architect. It is a Microsoft endpoint management tool. In this position, the client was HCL and they were looking for Intune Architect in Frisco, Texas. So if you look at the job description, they are looking for experience with WS1. It is an endpoint management tool. Microsoft Intune, it is also an endpoint management tool. Group policy profile. The first three lines are simple up to enrollment profiles, right? It's very simple. It is a normal job duty of Intune architect, right? Somebody who is an Intune. But if you go into the next line, collaborate with all the SMEs, WSO1, Okta, Azure Active Directory, Aruba, ClearPass application owners on detailed assessment analysis and work with PepsiCo SMEs. So if you look at this line, their WS1, it's okay. Azure Active Directory, yeah. If somebody has experience with endpoint management WS1 or Microsoft Intune, then they must know WSO1 and AID as well. ClearPass, it is a different application. So it is not necessary that somebody who is going for Intune might have experience with ClearPass. Normally what happens is that a company who is releasing this requirement, they will release a separate requirement for technical architect with ClearPass and Aruba and Okta. But in the case of implementation companies, they put all this requirement in one single requirement. They need a single guy to work for who can do all these things, and they can find a guy. But the thing is, the rate will be really low here. Even if you are in India, the salary will be really low. That's why people avoid working with these companies until you are really looking for a job requirement or you are on visa and you have to make every day count, because the visa people who are on H1B or visas, they cannot spend a day without working, because those days they are not working on those day are count when they are applying for new visa. So they have to be really careful about that. Otherwise, given an option, I'm sure that they would prefer some to work somewhere where the rate is really high. So when you look at that line, collaborate with all the SMEs, it means that you don't have to architect WS1 and Okta and AID and Aruba ClearPass, right? But you have to collaborate with people who are expert in those applications. But here, that is what I meant by double meaning. But that's not the case. They have mentioned it like that, but you have to have solid experience in those application, because I had a candidate interviewed for this role, and he was a really senior candidate in tune architect experience. He has really good, but in the interview they focus more questions on Okta. Okta is an identity and access management tool. They focused more question on Okta and Aruba. So they were looking for guys who were mainly into Okta and Aruba with experience on Intune. So they changed the topic of the title, job title, so that they can get some guys who can do both things, all the three, four things. Normally, this role requires three different people with three different architect experience. But in the case of this implementation companies, their main motto is, to manage the cost as much as possible. Then there is another role that I will give you an example of. It is for senior network engineer L3, and this does not only apply for USA, it apply for India or anywhere in the globe where these companies are working. So if you look at the first line in the job description, it says provide second level NoSQL support for diverse SAS applications, include MongoDB, Atlas, DocumentDB, DynamoDB, it's Amazon database. HBase, it is used for data engineering, big data. Couchbase is the same. Cassandra is also an NoSQL database. So this is a L3 level network. L3, it means senior level network requirement. But in the first line, they haven't mentioned anything about network, right? All they are have mentioned is somebody who has solid experience with all the kind of database. You cannot support any database or anything until you know really well about them, right? Because supporting means if there is something wrong with this database, then you have to realize, okay, what's the error, and you have to correct it, right? So that's what made support, I guess. So I'm not that technical, but I'm trying to explain you as much as I know. Then second is experience working with Redis or NoSQL DBA with Cassandra plus MongoDB. If candidate, if we have Redis experience, if not, then submit. Also, as such type of candidate, you have Redis experience. If not, then also submit. They have mentioned in second line they need another database, right? Redis or NoSQL DBA. Right now, in the second line, they haven't mentioned anything about network. This is also an HCL role. So focus on this line under the parenthesis, under the bracket. Also ask such type of candidate if he have Redis experience. If not, then also submit. They are mentioning that if candidate have Redis experience, that's perfect. That's the guy we are really looking for. If does not, then also submit. But let me tell you something. They are not going to hire that guy who does not have that Redis experience, because they know that somebody, their sub vendors, the companies who work with the HCL, they will find somebody for this role. And if not, they will interview multiple candidates, and they will see which one has little more experience on in all of them. And but that's not the only thing, and who is also coming on the lesser rate than all of them, and they will hire that guy. And if it does not work well, they will fire him within 2 or 3 months. So that's also the thing. Third line, troubleshoot and resolve issue in production to maximize availability and product data integrity under guidance of product engineering L3DBA. We are in the third line, right? And still we haven't come across anything that require network, the duty of a network engineer. We are only going into the network, right? In fourth line, participate in patching and upgrade. This can go on for everything. This line is normal for developer, admin, and the database as well, right? Work cooperatively with first and third level support teams. In the last line, create and maintain run log of typical DBA task when possible. Assign and oversee task for L1 DBA and SAS software as a service ops task to perform. So if you will apply for this job and you have extensive data database engineer experience. You are a DBA who has experience of more than 10 years and you are going to get rejected. Your profile will not be selected. Why? Because on top of all of this, you see there is no mention of network in this. It might have mentioned last line one or two things, but they haven't mentioned. They left the network part on you for the interpretation. Like, you have to assume along with all these things you should have really good network engineer experience. So they are looking for a database engineer who has a solid experience on network, or a network engineer who has been a database engineer before coming into the network, right? Somebody who have worked as a DBA for 10 years or 6 years, then they moved into network, or they worked as a network engineer into a database companies or database projects. Then only because they have mentioned every database available. Like, tell me which database is not mentioned in this. Only Cosmo DBS I think that is not mentioned, or Vector DB, right? Those only two database which they haven't mentioned, and Oracle, I guess. So that's, now you can see what I meant by double meaning. If you are going with the title, when you are applying for a job at implementation partner, you have to take care of two things. First, you should have everything that is required in the title, and second, you should have everything required in the job description, and especially the thing which they have mentioned. Like, even they have mentioned like they have to collaborate, you have to assume that they want that. You are not collaborating, you should have that experience, you can be that guy. So that's what I meant by that. And this video is intended for everybody, whether you are a job seeker, whether you are a recruiter, and anyone. And if you liked it, please subscribe, and thank you for your support. And till then, be well in the world.